welcome into the Customer Edge. I'm your host, Tyler Pyburn of the Pulse Network, and we've got an excellent show lined up for you today. It's all about empowering the modern marketer. Yes, it's an excellent topic with great segments, great guests lined up for you today, and also for you to engage with and continue the conversation on. Now, we are going to be taking you through some of the different segments, like Get the Edge, so you can learn some of the knowledge, some 5 takeaways from Robert Rose. We're also going to be going in the field. We're also going to, well, have the opportunity to have my co-host takeaways for the day as well. And of course, it's not going to be me navigating us through this entire way. We welcome in Bernard Chung of SAP. He's going to be helping us out through this entire time. Bernard, welcome in. How are you doing today?
Doing well. Thank you for having me here on the show.
Excellent. It's an absolute pleasure to have you in. I know we've been working on piecing this show together for a little while now, and it's definitely an exciting show that we have for our folks today. But what I want to do right now is actually give us a little background of Bernard Chung. For the folks out there who, maybe unfamiliar with the name, give me a little background.
Sure. I've been focused on marketing technologies for close to 20 years now. I first started doing marketing operations in financial services industry, supporting direct marketing efforts, doing segmentation, targeting, list generation, and campaign execution. And while I was there, I was asked to team up with the IT organization to build a homegrown solution for marketers to use in campaign management. And I had a great time doing that. So I decided to shift gears a little bit and work for a software company that made great technology solutions for marketers.
Absolutely, and now it's kind of all of the above as far as the solutions are concerned. So that's one of the best parts about this. So I mentioned today's topic, empowering the modern marketer. I mean, this is right up your alley. I mean, this is everything that you do. Talk to that. Give us a little background, if you will, on this topic. Because when we were going forward, we were toying with a few different ideas. But give me a little more background on today's topic in particular.
Absolutely. We all know that customers are a lot more knowledgeable and a lot more informed than ever before. They're socially networked and digitally connected, and they have access to information 24/7. And when a customer is interested in purchasing a product or interested in a product itself and come to an organization, they typically, most of them, know more about the 4 Ps of marketing than the marketers themselves. 4 Ps are the product, price, placement, and promotion. And they're getting all this information from mostly third-party sources like social media, peer groups, and community networks. And that information is helping them to shape the perception of the brand, and the products, and the companies. And they're relying less and less on the organization to provide that information. So for marketers, it's a challenge because they're losing the ability to market and to influence to their customers. And they have to really figure out, how do they regain the credibility and the trust with today's customers?
I was going to say, how do they take ownership? Because the customers have the ownership, I believe, at this point. I mean, I think, joking on the phone when you and I were talking just a few days ago, I used the example when I went out and bought my car. I actually knew what price I was going to be paying. I knew what I was going to get for the trade-in on the value of my car. I knew exactly what color I wanted. I knew what engine I liked. I knew all the specifications. I didn't have to go in and ask the dealer actually anything. And that's the ability now. The marketer's saying, well, wait a second here. You have the power in your hands. So that's what we're going to be navigating folks through today, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent. Definitely looking forward to today's topic. This is something that we love talking about here on the Customer Edge, obviously, for obvious reasons. But we would love to have you guys talk about it as well. So one thing that we want to have you do is make sure you're involved. Continue this conversation not only right here on this show, but also on your own channels. Make sure to utilize the hashtag CustEdge on Twitter, and that way you can keep up with the conversation, see things that are taking place. Now, we're monitoring it. Our team out back is also monitoring CustEdge, that hashtag right now. If you see the amount of people that we have out back monitoring this, you'll absolutely love it. It's great to see. But we would love for you guys to not only keep the conversation going during this show, but after the show as well. So if you have questions, obviously we'll be able to answer those as the show progresses, as well as after the show. That way we can make sure we have some of the great thought out answers for you as well, so we can get back to you in a timely fashion. Because hey, that's what marketing is all about, isn't it? Definitely is. All right, so we're going to start things. We're going to kick things off. We're going to start things in case this is the first time on the show, and that's with some of the different trends that are taking place out there. Now, the trends, indeed, are really some of the different headlines, some of the things that are making waves throughout the industry right now. And, well, we start with one article that was very interesting about real-time marketing. Now, this article really set up, if you happen to catch the Super Bowl, well, just a few months ago, you might have realized that the lights did, in fact, go out during the Super Bowl. However, what did take place was that Oreo yes, the cookie brand, took advantage of this to the umpteenth degree, Bernard. They did a fantastic job of real-time marketing. Give me a little background on this story and specifically to real-time marketing.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a great story about how Oreo took advantage of a situation and did a fantastic campaign that took off. And I think the harder part of doing real-time marketing is really being prepared to act quickly when these opportunities occur. Because these opportunities, the window of this opportunity to take advantage of, it could last just a few days or just
tiny,
even hours. Yeah, absolutely.
Really
yeah.
is.
So marketers really need to rethink how their organization operates and really anticipate these scenarios that they might want to take advantage of, and really streamline their marketing operations around those opportunities so when they do occur, they could act on it really quickly.
I was going to say, to that point, one of the things that I think is interesting about this is that it's not only just having the right resources in place, but it's the culture as well, isn't it?
Absolutely. You want to encourage your team to be proactive and take initiative when these opportunities happen, and that's really important. But the key point, though, last thing, speed is important in doing real-time marketing, but you can't sacrifice quality. You still have to deliver content that's right on, that resonates with the audience that you're trying to reach.
So let's take L'Oreal as an example, right? I mean, they did a great job. When the lights went out, they actually sent out, an image that, yes, folks, you can in fact dunk in the dark. They did a great job, had a great message. But to your point, Bernard, it wasn't just speed. They didn't just send something out. They were not only timely, but they also had a great message that fell right in line with what was taking place as well, didn't they?
Yes, absolutely. And in order to do that, you obviously could guess that they're working with a bunch of different people to actually make this happen, right? And I think being able to collaborate with not only your team, but also with vendors and partners and agencies to make this happen really quickly is important. So you need to be able to collaborate better, do social collaboration with your partners and with your teams that you have, and as well as others outside in different areas, in order to make sure that you identify the best opportunities and react quickly and align all your resources and processes to make it happen.
Now, what's interesting, aligning, and that's almost planning, but people might say, well, they didn't know the lights were going to go out. Right. However, they did know the Super Bowl was going to be taking place. So they had to line things up. I mean, talk to that. I'm sure, there's been instances, while we don't know if something incredible is going to happen, we do know that the Olympics are going to, or a sporting event is going to take place. We know when holidays are obviously happening. I mean, that's the other thing that we need to make sure is, anticipating a little bit more.
Right, absolutely. So it's important to, identify key events or opportunities that may occur and really think through how you would react in certain situations, scenarios. And I think Oreo did a great job of anticipating the Super Bowl event and what may happen, what may not happen. And I'm sure there was a lot of last minute activities that were going on as well, right, to make this thing happen, to make sure it resonates.
Yeah, I was going to say, and to Oreo's credit, I think they, not only took advantage of the Super Bowl, but they've continued to move on. And we just saw the Stanley Cup Finals. Obviously, a Boston fan, I'm not too ecstatic about what just took place, but still, Oreo as well took advantage of the Stanley Cup Finals and making sure that they obviously paid very close attention to that as well. So the next topic, we're going to go ahead and move on to the next trend, and this one actually comes from, Bernard, someone that I think you actually know very well, the CMO of SAP, actually wrote a great piece on LinkedIn about heaven and hell of customer experience. Now, one of the things that's interesting about this is customer experience ties right in with marketing, and that's what sometimes folks have kind of separated for a long time, but it does work hand in hand. Give us a little background of this piece.
Sure. Jonathan Becker, our CMO, did a great piece on this, and it's tips for marketers on how to champion customer experience throughout the organization. And it lists a lot of great points, but the point that resonates with me is that customer experience has a direct impact on the financial results of the organization. And it sounds common sense, but many businesses fail to make that connection, primarily because if you think about delivering better customer experience, it really costs. You have to make investment. Yeah,
and it's not just you're going out and buying customer experience as if it's a product. That's training, that's development, that's hiring, and so on and so forth.
Absolutely. And you also need to create new infrastructure to make sure everybody has the right information and they're trained and empowered to act and deliver great customer service. So many businesses have a hard time justifying making that investment for something they won't be able to see a direct financial results immediately.
And one of the things to that, I think that some folks might get lost in the fact that it's not just value for right now, it's future value as well.
Absolutely.
Because, talk to that, because I think that's an incredible point.
Yeah, I think we have to think about the value that the customer provides for an organization, and there's a couple different ways. First, customer provides value by the purchases that they're going to make today or this purchasing cycle. The second is that the future purchases that customer will make, but that's really dependent on the memory of the customer experience and the interaction that they had previously. Mm-hmm. And also the impact also, if that customer has an influence and impact on other prospective customers, there's an impact on potential value from that as well. Mm-hmm. So when you think about the value, you need to think not just today, but also the future and the influence that customer has on other people.
Well, the example that was given was a great one because it talked about Carnival Cruise Lines and some of the issues that have been taking place with Carnival, specific to running out of food, running out of water, and so on and so forth. However, what some of the folks on board, obviously they complained about some of the issues that were happening, but they talked about the customer service that was given to them by some of the employees because they tried to make sure that they kept morale up and brought folks indoors to try to make sure that they could at least try to have fun and lift their spirits somewhat. Those are the things that, to your point, that you took a bad situation and actually did give some sort of value so that folks can be champions for the service that was given to them. Because some people know technology, things go wrong at times. But customer service, you want to make sure that always is there. If you could, though, give me an example, for B2B, because we talked about this before, and you gave a great example to me before about, a call center. Kind of take me through that.
Absolutely. The human aspect is so important because that's where the engagement and interaction happens. So one example in my mind is if a high-value customer calls into a call center because he has an issue, right? But unfortunately, at the end of the call, the issue isn't resolved. In fact, the customer is more upset, more irate about the situation. Most likely than not, that customer will probably not do business with you any longer, or at least reduce the number of purchases from your organization. And also, if that person has influence, like I said before, on other friends and family, they'll probably ask them or tell them about the story which will prevent them from other people from doing business with you as well. So in essence, the experience that customer went through today, the bad experience, actually destroyed the value of the customer from an organizational perspective. Yeah. So it's important to understand and see that experience do have direct impact on financial results of the organization.
Definitely, and we talk about experience, and it starts from the outside in, and that's actually the next article that we want to touch upon. Customer Experience Innovation from the Outside In by Kerry Bodine. It was a great piece that discussed about an MRI designer that, looked at children going into the MRI and saying, they were petrified of this. So they created an entire experience around it, pretending that you were in a submarine, going underwater with pirate ships all around. So it actually became a very inviting experience for some of the kids out there. Talk to this one a little bit, Bernard.
Yeah, I think this is a great story for marketers on how we should actually see the organization, actually see it from a customer's perspective, be in the customer's shoes, and to see what they go through, what are the experiences they have to go through to be our customers and to stay as our customers. And I think the marketers absolutely should take time to do this. And one of the key things to doing this is actually lay out a customer journey map, so to speak, right? And to understand what are each steps that customer need to go through in that journey scenario. And ask yourself for each of these steps, what are the actions that customer need to take for each of the steps to move forward to the next steps?
I was going to say, talk to that because you mentioned actions. Let's talk about each one of those steps. I mean, actions, motivations, questions, barriers. Yeah. To talk to those.
Yeah, absolutely. So the actions are, what are they from a customer perspective in each of the steps? What actions can they take, right? Could they ask questions? Could they purchase now? Could they compare products and things like that? So being able to provide those things so that they can move on, purchase if this is a purchasing process, so they could go ahead and purchase. And second point was really to understand the motivations, right? To understand, what's keeping them going from one step to the other. And what are some of the feelings and emotions that the customers are feeling in each of the steps? And so you get a better understanding of the psyche of the customer.
Excellent.
And to round out, third point was about the questions. Try to anticipate, what are the questions that customer needs to answer and have answers for before they feel comfortable moving to the next steps, and try to address those. And then lastly, you want to look at the barriers, potential barriers that you have from an infrastructural perspective. Either it's process or things that are artificially in the way of customers moving to the next steps.
Excellent. I love it. Excellent. So that right there, folks, was in fact the trends for today. It's time to move on to the next segment. It is get the cutting edge. We want to make sure that you guys can, in fact, see the cutting edge. Right now, it's time to have, 5 takeaways from Robert Rose of Digital Clarity.
Hi, everybody. I'm Robert Rose with the Digital Clarity Group, and I'm also the Chief Strategist with Content Marketing Institute. I'm really glad to be here today to talk about how marketers can leverage big data to really derive some kind of insight from what we're trying to do with our business. We know that the role of the CMO and the CIO is evolving. We know this, right? Of this change, we got to feel that it's more critical that they both evolve into something that has common purpose for the business rather than the change itself. And we think that this big data idea is something that can really align these two important roles in the organization. So let me just give you my top 5 things that I think are really important for us to understand as marketers if we're going to actually use big data to derive some sort of insight into this. So number 5, it's bringing the data together. So right now, marketers have more technology and data than we actually even know what to do with. And it's not the fact that we have so much technology like web analytics and social analytics and all of this conversion layer data that we have. It's the fact that these data elements are siloed off from each other. So we actually don't know how to bring them together to get a 360-degree view of our customer. And that's the important thing. So as we start to align with the CIO and really work together to get that 360-degree view of the customer, we've got to bring our data sources together so that we can start looking at them holistically instead of in siloed departments where they might provide value for the individual departments, but not for us as an entire business. Number 4, recognize that technology isn't a magic wand. We've got to produce results. Technology doesn't produce results, people produce results. Having the right technology is what's really important here. We've got to create better experiences using technology, but we've got to create better content using people. And that's what big data really gives us, is the insights in order to create more creative, better, more relevant content to those users and create better experiences for them. Number 3, that feeds right into this, is understanding our audiences. We've got to understand our audiences. There was a study that was just released that talks about how marketers are still using 70 to 80% of their data to facilitate more transactions instead of getting insight into deeper engagement with our customers. This has to change. We've got to get off the hamster wheel of CMOs really running toward more transactions, making sure that every graph goes up and to the right every week, every quarter. And instead, start using data to derive deeper insight into how we can develop deeper relationships with each customer as they go through whatever buying journey they are in our organization. Our data, because it is our data, has inherent biases in it. We have grown up delivering content, delivering different experiences, delivering different types of things to consumers. And because of that, any data we look at is going to have our biases built into it. And so we've got to get beyond that by being able to ask smarter questions, better questions of our data, being able to peel back the layers of data to ask really smart, intelligent questions instead of just assuming that we're trying to find the patterns for more transactions in there. The final and most important thing is a new role for the marketing organization. I'm calling it the manager of meaning, which is someone who can sit between the data and the creative content that we need to create as marketers and really start to ask those advancing questions. Someone who has the freedom to be able to ask things that may fly in the face of what our preconceived notions really are, and really ask the advancing questions that will help us derive that meaning, derive the insight, and help us develop deeper experiences with consumers over time. That's the only way that big data really becomes more than just a big box of nonsense and actually become something that's truly valuable and differentiating for the business over time. So there you have it. There's my 5 ways that a business can really derive true value out of big data. I'm Robert Rose with Digital Clarity Group.
And a very big thank you to Robert Rose of Digital Clarity Group for taking time out to join us here on the Customer Edge. So, Bernard, let's kind of break down what Robert was talking about. I mean, big data is a word that we hear everywhere right now. But Robert did, I thought, a great job of explaining really how to drive value out of big data, didn't he?
Absolutely, absolutely. Great 5 points about how to get value from big data. And I think the points that resonated with me the most was getting past our biases. I think as marketers and as just human beings, sometimes we do things repetitively. We get kind of set in the ways of doing things, right? So I think one of the mind shift that's required for marketers is when we look at data, we have to stop looking at data at an aggregated level and applying the learnings from that to the entire customer data set. And we had to do that in the past because the availability of data wasn't as rich as it is today. It was limited in terms of what data that we had from a customer data perspective. And also we lacked some robust analytical solutions for marketers to use to be able to go through millions and millions of customer records in a timely manner. And I was kind of guilty of this as well. When I was doing direct marketing in financial services, I often frequently took statistical sample sets of customer results and analyzed it and developed hypotheses and assumptions and applied those assumptions to the entire customer base. But with the richness of data that's possible out there today, and also with big data technologies, marketers and other business users could go through millions and millions of records really rapidly and really gain insights at each customer level and to be able to develop customer engagement strategy for each of the customers.
Absolutely. And to that point, you're essentially streamline marketing, right? And I think that's the one piece. Like that segue, folks. There you go. So now we're actually going to be talking all about streamline marketing. I actually had the opportunity to catch up with the CMO, Chief Marketing Officer of OpenText, Kevin Cochrane, just last week with a great conversation all about streamline marketing. And Kevin did a fantastic job breaking down really some experiences as far as streamline marketing is concerned. Take a listen. Hello everyone, Tyler Pyburn here of the Pulse Network on the Customer Edge. We're talking all about streamline marketing, and we're doing that with the CMO of OpenText. We're talking with Kevin Cochrane, and we welcome Kevin into the show right now. Kevin, welcome, and how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much to be here today.
Absolutely. So of course, the topic of conversation is streamline marketing, and we're talking as that relates to empowering the modern marketer. And right now what's taking place especially with digital, so many assets, so many things taking place. We really do have to try to streamline this entire process. In your words, how do you really define, streamline marketing? How do we actually approach it at this point in time?
Right. Well, I think that it's a very good question because right now there's a lot of energy and discussion in the marketplace around 2 key things, which is number 1, leveraging big data to get unique insights into consumer behavior so you can better deliver them a targeted experience. And secondly, on omni-channel experiences, how do you really interact and deliver personalized experiences across all of your different customer touch points? And these are all incredibly necessary and important conversations for us to have. However, once you're able to harness the power of big data, once you're actually able to deliver an omni-channel experience, you have a central production bottleneck, which is how do you now optimize your production activities so that you can create the most compelling forms of content and deliver them in the most appropriate manner to your different audiences around the globe. Once you've actually licked the problem of big data and determined your strategy for omni-channel engagement, you have a central challenge, which is you need to be able to streamline marketing. As a CMO here at OpenText, I face this every single day. How can I spend more dollars driving consumer engagement, and how can I drive cost efficiencies by gaining agility for rolling out all of my global campaigns? And at the heart of this is taking all of your core creative content, all of the rich media that you're looking to mobilize in the store, on social channels, on the web, in print, and be able to better organize the way that you work with all of your external agencies, how you work with all of your different creative talent, both people that you have in-house, people that you hire as part of a campaign that you're rolling out, and how can you optimize that entire production chain to actually feed all of the personalized experiences that you're looking to deliver to engage your customer. So, when you think about streamlining marketing, think about it as the way for marketers to really optimize how they create brand going forward in the new digital age.
It's interesting because you mentioned, the new digital age, and with the new digital age comes a lot of assets. I mean, you mentioned, before there was just, we might have glossy ads, we might have a handful of advertisements, and those were your, pieces of content, and there was only a handful of them. But now we have a lot of assets, a lot of digital as well as online and offline assets, but we need to make sure that we can maintain, we can sort through them, we can access them, at the click of a snap of a finger. We can manage them, we can distribute them, we can syndicate them, we can do all of the above. So as you mentioned, so we can have these multiple touch points. My question to you though is, when we start looking at this, what comes first? Is it the process or is it the technology, or do they work one and the same?
I think they actually work one and the same. And I know that that's kind of a challenging answer because oftentimes you want to be able to focus on one thing first, demonstrate success, and move on to the next thing. However, you can't really divorce the process from the actual creation process itself. And let me give you a couple of examples. So from the B2B world, let's talk about one of the types of assets that's proliferating nowadays, specifically video. Video drives the highest form of engagement. Everyone is investing more in video. But anytime that you're going to be doing, say, a customer event, and you want to be able to take things like a customer testimonial, and you want to be able to leverage it as a core brand asset that you can mobilize in all of your demand generation campaigns, you have to think about this, because you don't just take one long form video. You wind up taking multiple cuts, multiple angles on multiple topics, and then you wind up having to cut it in a variety of different ways. You have to actually be able to cut it for specific topics that you want to put in an outbound email campaign. You need to be able to subtitle it in different languages so you can roll out those email campaigns in various different geographies around the globe. You need to be able to cut it so that you can actually put it on your website. You want to do little teaser trailers that you're putting on things like YouTube. You want to be able to get different cuts of it that you share with employees, that you share with your board members, that you share with install-based customers, that you share with partners, so on and so forth. One single video shoot might produce 4 or 5 different videos that get cut each individually 16, 20 different ways before they're localized. And then the sequence of activities of how you publish them over a timetable might stretch over a period of 3 to 6 months. That's a very germane example for me in particular, given the fact that we just went through a product launch and we're gearing up for a major user conference. This is kind of the sequence of activities that we're going through right now. So that's a simple example from a B2B marketing use case. Now, from a retail case, for example, you might have specific campaigns that you run on an annual basis. So say, for example, in North America, Thanksgiving is a very big shopping holiday. You're going to be rolling out a new line of clothing and a new set of sales if you're a retailer, for example. Well, that involves a lot of things. Number one is you need to be able to get all of your models that are going to be wearing the clothes that you're going to be putting in the stores and putting out in your circulators. You need to be able to contract with them. You need to be able to get them scheduled for the photo shoot. You need to be able to get them in all day. You need to create all those different photo shoots. Then you need to go through the creation process of how you Photoshop those individual photos, how you go through the photo selection process, how you target individual photos for different types of campaign assets you're going to generate. And of course, then you need to organize all of those into the collections, and then those collections need to go into your print catalogs. They need to go into your Sunday circulars. They need to get scheduled for delivery on the website. They need to go out to your Facebook page, so on and so forth. There's a very, very significant kind of orchestration process over the course of multiple months to basically take hundreds of thousands of photos and then coalesce them into just those particular assets that you need for your online demand gen efforts. Or you can look at the example of a media and entertainment company. Obviously media and entertainment giants are getting squeezed just because traditional forms of generating advertising revenue and things like TV shows are falling off. So they have to get very creative about how they actually create new brands and then monetize them in new media. So the big process there is streamlining marketing to reduce the time from sketch to shelf. So if we're going to be launching a new movie that happens to be very popular, there's a process by which you have to get all of your creative professionals to start mocking up scenes in the movie, to start mocking up the characters, and that's drawings that they take. They go through a collaborative review process, then they go from those drawings to more sophisticated 3D mock-ups, then they go into the video production process, they go into the prototyping process for the actual action figures, for example, that they might put in the store. And then ultimately, once all those artifacts get created and approved, then they can actually go through the outbound publishing process to start manufacturing those toys, to start distributing video clips, so on and so forth. So 3 pretty specific examples: B2B marketing case, managing the variety of assets that you need to generate in order to roll out all of your integrated demand gen campaigns. The example of an online retailer orchestrating the entire process of the production shoot to roll out things like a new Thanksgiving campaign. And then, of course, reducing time from sketch to shelf if you're a media and entertainment conglomerate.
I mean, you talk about the path and how we have that path for the customer, but sometimes if we find out more information about the customer along their journey, we sometimes know that we do have to be agile. We do have to kind of maybe transform our path and mold things a little bit differently. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. But I think there's actually more to it than just being agile. I think we actually need to be responsive as well. I think a lot of people might think of it in more simplistic terms, which is, at each point in the journey, the equivalent of a sprint, for example, you can actually stop and gain some insights into how your customer is actually behaving, and you might actually want to make some real-time adjustments. I think we all get that. But it's not so simple as just basically making a simple change in a targeting rule or making a simple change to a piece of text. I think people think magically that, well, maybe I learned that it's not females between the ages of 34 and 40 that are converting, but it's actually females between the ages of 40 and 42, in which case all I simply need to do is spend more money buying eyeballs for that new female demographic. It's not that simple. What you might actually find out is that the reason that females between the ages of 34 and 40 aren't converting is because the type of content that you're actually engaging them with isn't resonating. Maybe it's a particular customer that they don't really identify with. Maybe it's a particular message for that customer that isn't quite on point. Maybe it's the actual nature of how the video was produced. Maybe the background's wrong. Maybe the imagery's wrong. Maybe the music's wrong, so on and so forth. So if it was so simple as just basically changing where you allocate your money or what rule that you're currently executing, that would be fantastic. I think all of us as CMOs would love that. The real world is actually far, far different. And in my particular world, what it oftentimes means is I actually have to do real work. I actually have to go and get members of my creative services team, and they need to actually get on the phone with an account manager, and they need to get back in touch with the customer, and then we need to go back and we need to redo a photo shoot. We need to recreate the videos. We need to cut them again 16 different ways. We need to re-review them with the customer. We need to get their approval and buy off, and then ultimately we need to republish them. So if I were just agile, I wouldn't be able to get my job done. I'd be able to get real-time insights, and I'd be able to be ready to act on my online channel, but I wouldn't have anything to act with. I'm building, in my particular case, a responsive organization, which is when I get the insights and I want to act online, the whole organization can immediately get into motion and recreate all the compelling content that we need, that we can flow into all of our targeting engines to actually get the job done.
Kevin, I absolutely love it. Honestly, thank you again so much for your time. Really appreciate you taking time out of the day. For the folks out there that want to get in touch with you, where's the best spot that they can reach you at?
Cochrane at OpenText.com or Kevin C 2003 on Twitter.
Awesome. Kevin Cochrane, the CMO of OpenText, joining us right here on the Customer Edge. So for Kevin Cochrane, I'm Tyler Pyburn of the Pulse Network. Obviously, a huge thank you to Kevin Cochrane, the CMO of OpenText, for taking time out of his day to jump on a quick conversation with me. He is absolutely excellent, Bernard. And one of the things we talked about offline after reviewing it together was that the examples he gave were phenomenal. They really were. So for you, I mean, I know we talked about this. Talk about what is the bottom line after kind of going through that, really.
Yeah, the bottom line is that, as a marketer, the marketers are dealing with a lot of content and a lot of assets these days. And it's primarily because of two reasons in my mind. Number one is that the customer base today is highly fragmented. Just because customers have a lot more information about different products and different colors and different versions that are available, they have highly developed preferences and have created a lot of these microsegments. So as a marketer, when I'm planning a campaign and I'm thinking about targeting all these different microsegments, I have to create a content and assets that are relevant and personalized to each of these different microsegments. And I have to think about managing the creation, development of various different versions of these contents so it'll be appropriate and relevant for these microsegments. So that's one thing. Second thing is the proliferation of interaction channels. Yeah. In the past, typically marketers have to deal with 2 or 3 different channels, right? But today, with explosion of digital channels, you have Facebook, YouTube, or mobile devices, various different mobile devices. When you're creating a content, you also have to take into consideration different forms and format of those content that will reside in all these different interaction channels so that customers could have seamless, consistent customer experience across all those channels. So those two reasons are creating just a whole lot of content for marketers, and they definitely need a tool to help them to streamline the creation, the development, and the utilization of these assets and content.
And to your point, to streamline this, but it can't feel rigid. It has to be a personalized message to each individual. And that's really where we're taking the conversation next. So really what we want to do now for in the field is have that messaging about personalization. Now, the STM in Montreal did a phenomenal job of releasing an application that did exactly that with a lot of great content as well as partnerships throughout the area. So before we bring in the CMO, Pierre Bourbonniere, on the show in just a few seconds, I would like to give you a quick introduction as to exactly what they did. So I want to advise you guys to quickly watch this video, enjoy it. It really does tell a phenomenal story. And then Pierre will be on to join us and talk about his story in just a few seconds. So that will, in fact, give you just a little background of the story behind the STM and really their process. However, we want to dig a little bit deeper into that entire, the STM, as well as Pierre Bourbonniere, as well as, their application and how it all worked. So we welcome Pierre into the show right now. Pierre, welcome, and how are you doing today?
I'm fine. How are you?
Doing very well, thank you. And honestly, appreciate you joining us on the show today for really a discussion about this and from the personalization standpoint. For the folks out there, give us a little background on you as well as the STM.
Yes, actually, I was Director of Marketing at Air Canada for several years, as well as in the loyalty program for Air Canada called Aeroplan, and joined the STM about 6 years ago. And 6 years ago, when you move from the airline to public transit, what do you do? What do you say? A few things that I had in mind was to put seat numbers in the subway. Why not you reserving a seat like on the airplane? I guess that didn't fly very high. Or putting a first-class lounges in the subway stations, and that didn't go very, very well. But I had this idea of launching a loyalty program for the STM, and that is accomplished. We've just launched this a month ago, and I'd love to tell you about this for sure.
I was going to say, you're segueing for me because I'm anxious to hear more about it because I got a chance to talk with you a little bit before and hear some more of the story, and it's a phenomenal story as far as personalization is concerned. Take me through it a little bit more. Right, I'm anxious.
Well, number one, the STM, which is the Société Transport de Montréal, is the major metro and bus service for the city of Montreal, a city of close to 3.54 million people. And we, by the way, won Best Transit in North America in 2010. We're very proud of that. We carry 413 million people per year in our transit. That's close to 1.2 million every day, over 68 subway lines and 250 bus lines. Actually, 65% of the people in Montreal going downtown every day take public transit. We're very proud of that, and we want to keep it that way. We've acquired a lot of new customers over the last 5 to 7 years through all kind of initiatives, and now we're kind of in a retention mode. We were in an acquisition mode, and now we're trying to find out that the apples in the tree are a little higher, a little more difficult to fetch, and therefore we basically want to focus on the customers we have today. We've discovered through a segmentation study, a marketing segmentation study, that 13% of our customers are leaving us every year. Some of them basically have been with us using yellow buses and blue buses for 13, 14 years going to school, and then getting to the age of 16, 17 years old and looking at an ad for an Elantra at 129, so are leaving us. And we're trying to keep these guys. We're trying to really try to sensitize them and get them to stay in public transit. So by developing a program which is a customer relationship program, a one-to-one marketing program for these primarily kids, if you want, or young adults, we think that we'll be able to retain some of these 13% and grow. Obviously, we are getting also a 13% new arrivals every year, so that makes up for it. But the name of the game for us is to increase ridership, and therefore, if we can capture some of that 13% leaving us. And how do we want to do that is basically by being able to talk to them one-to-one. Up until now, these people are using the subway and the buses every day, and we see them go by, but we don't really know them by name. And we have a great opportunity with the Opus smart card. We have a smart card in Montreal, which allows us to really know who our customers are and what kind of tickets they purchase, what kind of behaviors they have. Anything that has to do with moving from A to B, we stay away from that because we think we don't want to be big brothers. But obviously, we want to engage with those customers. And by having them join our program, the Mercy program that you saw in the small video, that really helps us talking to them and retain them. How do we get there? Because we're a public organization, right? A public organization is very stringent, if you want, and very strict in rules and all of that. Well, we were lucky enough in working with our SAP partner. SAP is our technology partner. And they came to us one day and they basically asked us whether we had a major challenge for them to help us tackle. And the loyalty program was in the back of our mind, but we knew that our lawyers didn't want to get into privacy issues and all that stuff. So that was on the shelf for the longest time. By sitting with the SAP people, by going through what they call co-innovation sessions, by having us spell out truly what our objections are, the objections really that we're getting from either the finance people or the legal people or others in the organization, or even customers really worrying about privacy, we were able to look at how technology can satisfy some of our requirements. we spelled out some imperatives. One of the biggest things we wanted to do, because we wanted to appeal to the young audience, is the last thing we wanted was to launch another loyalty program with another card with points. People are have points coming out of their ears, and therefore, why don't we really focus on our audience and see what they want? We talk to those kids, and instant gratification is basically what they want. They don't want to wait. They want it now. They don't want to cash in points. Okay?
They want it here and now.
So we wanted to innovate. We wanted to satisfy those kids. We wanted to do something totally different. We looked at what was happening in the rest of the world, and we feel that what we've come up with is very unique. We're talking about geolocalization. We're talking about real time. We're talking about giving customers what they want. So the way it works is that people, when they sign up for the Merci program, which is initially in a application from Apple that they download through their iPhone, and soon to be on Android and other platforms, well, we ask them to enter their Opus card number. And when they do that, we can basically make contact with that customer right away. We can talk to them almost individually. We know who they are. We know what bus lines they take. We know what subway lines they take. We know what they like through the preferences that they shared with us, and therefore we can talk to them in a relevant fashion. And that's the key. If you talk to me about my subway station and you tell me that 8 o'clock in the morning is the worst time to take the subway because my nose will be right on the window, but if you tell me that 10 minutes earlier or 10 minutes later I'll be able to sit, that is very important information for me. That improves my experience. If you tell me that I've spent too much on my Opus card over the last month because at the beginning of the month I've never thought that I would spend enough money on my card to really justify the expense of a monthly pass at $77. Well, if I spent $99, well, I could have saved close to $20. So I'm going to tell this person, you bought the wrong fare, and perhaps you want to try the monthly pass. I'm going to invite people that are buying 9 passes a year or 10 passes a year. Why don't you move on to the 12 passes a year so that it's more convenient, you don't have to line up, and you're going to get 1 or 2 months free depending on our programs. And of course, we bring in a lot of partners into this. We already had a fair amount of partners, but that's something that is fairly unique in our program is we've got 1,340 partners.
Now, what are those partners made up of? When you said that earlier, what's the makeup of those partners?
Well, we've asked our customers again, and they've told us that the more logical thing to do is to have transportation partners. What is an extension of the STM? What is the extension of my public transit experience? Is Big C, which is a car rental program into the city, which I believe you have in Boston, and there's in New York, recently launched. There's also Communauto, which is a car sharing program. Car rental companies, car sharing, other car sharing programs as well. So any transportation solutions that will delay my decision to purchase my first or my second car. And that's what we want in public transit. What they told us as well is, why do I use public transit for? Well, it's to go to events in Montreal, to go to the restaurant, go to the opera, go to shows. Well, why don't we have event partners? Well, as a matter of fact, 1,000 of our partners are event partners in Montreal. Montreal is a city really that is extremely into festivals, into events, and then people do use public transit. So what we do is we try to combine fares with event tickets and try to give discounts, free tickets to our partners. What they've told us as well is retail partners that they use every day, whether it's pharma, whether it's grocery, they basically are interested in getting to know those partners and getting discounts, offers, value adds from those partners. And and they've told us about the little mom and pop shops in their neighborhood. We've got about, I would say, 20 Main Street area in Montreal, and each of the 20 Main Street area, they have about 100 little mom and pop shops. So we went to see these mom and pop shops. And the beauty of doing this is that these mom and pop shops don't necessarily have access to a loyalty program. That would be too expensive to them. By bringing them into our ecosystem of partners, by getting them to engage with our customers, we basically created a big ecosystem, and therefore getting all these people to liaise and generate value, really.
And at the end of the day, that's really what it's all about, is generating value. So what I would love to do right now, Pierre, is if you could take us through a demo demonstrate the actual application itself. And we've got a quick demo that you could actually walk us through would be great.
Well, you know, a good example is that every day we can relate to that wedding anniversary, and you find out at 3 o'clock that you don't have anything planned whatsoever. So the application, really, you turn it on, and you basically choose your preferences, music, and all that. Oh, I've got the opera there. I'm going to use, and I'm going to look and obtain the offer for that 40%. I will then go back to the application, see, oh, there's a nice restaurant. I'll go for that restaurant offer. A bottle of Beaujolais for free, my God, and I'll plan my route. And then we see each other. You know, I'm sitting on the bus right now and looking outside and looking forward to my nice dinner and opera tickets. And suddenly on the screen, I receive a notification from the flower shop around the corner saying, well, if you stop by, you can get some flowers for free, or you can get actually a 25% at Flower Mania, and you stop by, and I've got it all planned as if this was planned 3 months ago. I'm a hero, basically. So we can see here partners in the category session and here obviously options for me to get there. And you see little trees everywhere, and we'll get to that in a second. And here you see 100 trees. We're very much branded around the environment at STM, meaning that we've determined that a return trip by public transit is the equivalent of 1 tree for the environment during 1 year. So therefore, what we're trying to do is really drive the point home that you have trees, that you accumulate trees, and therefore that is instant gratification in itself, in addition to, of course, the free tickets and the freebies that we get from our customers.
I love that.
Yeah, Pierre, this is amazing. What you and what the STM's done is fantastic. And you know, it's amazing that you're taking information about location, customer preference, and customer interaction history and time factor to be able to make these personalized and relevant offers and promotion to your customers. And I'm dying to know, share with us some of the results.
Well, having 1,340 partners to start with is major. That means that these partners were very interested in this kind of technology. They were really eager to test geolocalized marketing. Okay, real-time marketing. A lot of those partners cannot afford to do that, so we allow them to do this. So 1,300 partners. On the first week, during the first week of launching the application, we got 10,000 people to sign up. That was major for us. We have a limit of 20,000 in the program. We're close to 15,000 right now, and I'm sure after this show, we'll probably hit a record. But that also, from a customer standpoint, it shows very much the interest. From a results standpoint, for all those folks that know about direct marketing, if you get 1, 2, or 3% take-up rate on offers, you're very, very happy. Well, we got our grocery and our pharma partners that got 5 to 6% results. So that's very, very interesting. This is all about having the right product at the right time for the right customer at the right place.
And that's why you need those partners, though, doesn't it? I mean, I think that's the important factor of it, is that you wouldn't be able to do it by yourself or just with a handful of them. You need that, plethora of partners in a sense, right?
Yeah.
To talk to, one of the things that we talked about off camera beforehand was security-wise.
Yes.
Because I think that's an interesting situation. Specifically, I mean, you mentioned in the beginning, you're part of the government as well. So talk to that.
Exactly. Like we're obviously being watched like hawks, not only by our customers that, for whom privacy is a big issue, but also by the regulatory people, about what you can and what you can do, and that is evolving. Quebec, or the city of Montreal and in the province of Quebec, is probably one of the more stringent locations in North America, very close to what Germany. In Germany, really, privacy laws are probably the tightest in the whole world. We're very close to that. So we had to come up with a way that we could somehow convince our lawyers that we would be doing some direct marketing, achieve these kind of results, but by satisfying them from a privacy standpoint. I'm not a techie. However, the way I'm going to illustrate this is very simple. My name is Pierre. So Pierre is in the database at STM with my preferences. If I like the opera, if I like restaurants and all this, that's in one database. My last name is Bourbonniere. Bourbonniere is in the cloud at SAP. And that's in the SAP in the cloud with my information about the buses that I use, the metro stations that I use every day, the fares that I purchase. And both of these databases don't talk to each other whatsoever. However, as soon as I press on the button and I say, I want an offer from the food store, somehow it triggers. There's a trigger into the system that brings this information comes together and to send an offer. Never can I, as a marketer, go back to an individual and talk to him individually. I can talk to people in the one postal code area and say, all these people that have brown eyes, black hair, that are within this age group, I'd like to talk to them. But individually, I cannot, simply because we've figured out a way to separate this data. And really, with SAP, we were able to do this. Yeah.
That's excellent. That's outstanding. So, I like, it's just as amazing that you taking that model of having a billboard inside of the bus, right, or a sign inside of the train, and really took it to the next level by using this mobile platform. So I'm just curious, what's next? What's in store for STM? What's the next steps?
Well, actually, this will, be a pilot for over the next 3 to 6 months. We're going to watch this very closely. It will generate, in our view, additional customer revenue, because we will influence some behaviors. We'll get people to use public transit more often. We'll get people to use public transit during off-peak time. We'll generate behaviors in terms of change of tickets they purchase, and therefore generate more revenue. But we also generate more revenue from an advertising standpoint, because these 1,300 partners, they have a free ride to start with. They want to try, okay? We've selected those partners. But over the next few months, we're going to sit down with them, and how would you be ready to pay to have access to our customers and to be able to talk to them real-time and geolocalized fashion. And therefore, we expect to generate additional non-fare revenue from those guys. Long term, obviously, we want to integrate all of our platform. One of the platforms that we have today is an application for a transit application whereby you can decide, from A to B, how do you get there? We would like to have people in the near future to be able to charge their fare on their smartphone and basically go over in the bus and basically use their smartphone to do it. All kind of initiatives like this that really make it seamless for the customers and make it interesting. So this is all coming together in the near future, we hope. Yeah.
I love it. Excellent. Pierre, honestly, thank you so much for joining us, sharing your story, giving us a little demonstration as well. That was excellent. Honestly, thank you so much for taking time out, coming down and joining us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Absolutely. He right there, folks, is the Chief Marketing Officer of the STM in Montreal. He is Pierre Bourbonniere. We welcome him into the show. Absolutely excellent storyteller, to say the least. And I absolutely love what they're doing, for sure. So, kind of in closing, we're going to be wrapping up the show right now. And Bernard, what I'm curious to know is kind of get your takeaways from today. When we're looking at streamline marketing, when we're looking at big data, we're looking at personalization. Talk to me about some of your takeaways, some of the key things that we need to be focused on.
Yeah, at the beginning of the show, we talked about how customers are a lot more knowledgeable and have a lot more information. Well, from a marketer's perspective, first thing we need to do is kind of level that playing field of knowledge and insight. Marketers need to get a deeper insight and understanding about their customers. And they could start doing that by working with their IT organization to see what data is available and what data that they could get. But they shouldn't get data for data's sake. You should really think about getting data to help you to target better and to help you to engage your customers more effectively with relevant information to move the customers along the customer journey map that we discussed earlier today. And I think the second point is about streamlined marketing operations. There's tons of assets and content that's being generated today, and it's important that marketers have a handle on this so they could better support real-time marketing as well as all the digital marketing programs that are being put together. And lastly, we have to remember, we have to treat customers differently. If you treat all the customers the same, you're not treating anyone special. Right? So, and everybody has preferences in terms of different attributes about a product or different experiences. So you need to find out what those things are and focus on those. So when you engage your customers based on what they value, you're going to be able to deliver a great customer experience that people will love.
Excellent. I absolutely love it. I hope you guys enjoyed the show as much as I did, just kind of sitting on as a fly on the wall myself, to be honest with you. Absolutely great conversation, great show indeed. I want to remind you that the conversation, because it has wrapped up here, it continues though. Make sure to utilize hashtag CustEdge for any sort of questions, comments, or thoughts and ideas you might have. Like I said, we want to keep that conversation going. Thanks to all of the guests today, Robert, Kevin, Pierre, Bernard, everybody joining us on the show here on Customer Edge. I want to remind you to visit customeredgetv.com to see the on-demand version as well as segments from today's show and a whole lot more. So for everybody working hard out back, I'm Tyler Pyburn. We'll see you next time on the Customer Edge.